Hey there! Tonight we're going to explore 50 of Earth's most mysterious and extraordinary natural wonders. Our planet holds phenomena that seem almost impossible, yet exist in remarkable reality. Some of these wonders glow in the dark, others vanish without warning. Each one invites us to see our world with fresh eyes and genuine wonder. If you've heard another theory, feel free to share in the comment section. Now, let your mind and body relax, and let's explore tonight's topic together. 1. The Blood Falls of Antarctica cascade down the Taylor Glacier in McMurdo Dry Valleys, spilling bright crimson water into the pristine blue of Lake Bonny below. The startling red color comes from iron-rich brine that oxidizes upon contact with air, much like rust forming on metal. What makes this phenomenon truly extraordinary is what lies beneath the surface. This saltwater reservoir has remained completely sealed off from the outside world for nearly 2 million years, trapped under hundreds of feet of ice. Despite the total darkness, freezing temperatures, and complete absence of oxygen, unique microorganisms have adapted to survive in this extreme environment. These ancient microbes metabolize iron and sulfur compounds instead of sunlight, representing one of Earth's most isolated ecosystems. The falls serve as a window into how life might exist in similarly harsh conditions on other planets or moons. 2. The sailing stones of Death Valley present one of nature's most puzzling spectacles. In Racetrack Playa, a vast dry lakebed in California's Death Valley National Park, massive rocks weighing up to 700 pounds glide mysteriously across the perfectly flat desert floor, leaving long tracks behind them as evidence of their journey. For decades, scientists proposed theories ranging from magnetic fields to dust devils, but no one witnessed the stones actually moving. According to research published in 2014 by Scripps Institution of Oceanography, the mystery was finally solved when cameras captured the rare event. On winter nights, thin sheets of ice form across the playa's shallow water. When morning sun begins melting this ice, it breaks into large floating panels that are pushed by gentle winds. These ice sheets, acting like conveyor belts, push the rocks along the slick, muddy surface. The stones move so slowly, and the conditions occur so rarely, that the phenomenon happens only once every few years, making it one of Death Valley's most elusive natural events. 3. The hum of Taos has plagued residents of this small desert town in New Mexico since the early 1990s. Described as a persistent, low-frequency humming sound similar to a distant diesel engine idling, this mysterious noise is heard by only about 2% of the town's population. Those who perceive it report that the hum is more noticeable indoors and at night, often disrupting sleep and causing significant distress. Despite extensive investigations by teams from Los Alamos National Laboratory and the University of New Mexico, no single mechanical, geological, or atmospheric source has ever been identified. Researchers have tested everything from industrial equipment and power lines to seismic activity and atmospheric phenomena. The sound doesn't register on recording equipment, suggesting it may be related to how certain individuals perceive low-frequency vibrations. Similar hums have been reported in other locations worldwide, from Bristol, England to Bondi, Australia, yet the source remains one of acoustic's most frustrating, unsolved mysteries. 4. The bioluminescent beach of Vadhu Island transforms the Maldivian shoreline into something from a science fiction novel. Located in the Ra Atoll, this beach glows electric blue at night, as if the Milky Way had fallen into the ocean. The spectacular light show is created by Noctiluca scintillans, a type of bioluminescent plankton also known as sea sparkle. When waves crash onto the shore or when footsteps disturb the wet sand, these microscopic organisms emit bursts of bright blue light as a defense mechanism against predators. The chemical reaction happens in fractions of a second, with each organism producing light through a process called bioluminescence. Walking along the beach leaves glowing footprints that fade within moments, while each breaking wave illuminates in cascading azure brilliance. The phenomenon is strongest during certain times of the year when plankton populations bloom, typically between July and February. The effect creates an otherworldly experience, turning the water into a living, breathing galaxy beneath your feet. 5. The underwater forest of Lake Kandy stands frozen in time beneath crystalline mountain waters. Hidden in the Tian Shan Mountains of southeastern Kazakhstan, this haunting landscape was created after a devastating earthquake struck in year 1911. The massive tremor triggered a limestone landslide that formed a natural dam, blocking the gorge and creating what would become Lake Kandy. As water filled the valley, it submerged an entire forest of Schrenk's spruce trees. The submerged trees still stand upright today, over a century later, their trunks preserved by the lake's cold temperatures, which hover near freezing year-round. The upper branches and tops of some trees poke above the water surface like skeletal fingers, while below the waterline, the forest remains remarkably intact. The lake's extraordinary clarity allows divers to swim through this drowned woodland. Navigating between ghostly tree trunks in water so transparent, it creates an eerie illusion of flying through a frozen forest. It's a perfectly preserved moment from year 1911, suspended underwater. 6. The blood ponds of Nyohoji Temple transform each autumn into scenes that seem drawn from folklore. In Niigata Prefecture, Japan, the ponds near this ancient Buddhist temple turn a deep crimson color that once led locals to believe they were witnessing the blood of fallen warriors rising from the earth. The dramatic color change occurs every fall with remarkable consistency, creating a stark contrast against the temple's serene surroundings and the changing autumn leaves. The true source of the red hue is Haematococcus pluvialis, a freshwater microalga with an extraordinary ability. When stressed by changes in temperature, sunlight intensity, or nutrient availability, this alga produces astaxanthin, a powerful red pigment that serves as protection against environmental stress. As autumn arrives and conditions shift, the algae population blooms and activates this defense mechanism, releasing the crimson pigment into the water. The effect is so dramatic that the ponds appear filled with blood, giving rise to legends about samurai battles and spiritual significance. The phenomenon is temporary, lasting several weeks before the algae population declines and the ponds return to their normal appearance, waiting for the cycle to repeat the following year. 7. Lake Hillier's bubblegum pink waters create one of Australia's most photogenic mysteries. Located on Middle Island in the Recherche Archipelago off Western Australia, this lake stands out dramatically against the surrounding eucalyptus forest and deep blue ocean. The vivid pink hue is caused by a combination of Dunaliella salina algae and halobacteria that thrive in the lake's hypersaline environment. These microorganisms produce carotenoid pigments as protection against the intense sunlight, and these pigments give the water its distinctive color. What makes Lake Hillier truly remarkable is that the water retains its pink color even when removed from the lake and placed in a container. Unlike other pink lakes worldwide that change color seasonally or fade when water is extracted, Hillier's waters remain steadfastly pink year-round. The lake measures about 600 meters long and is surrounded by white salt deposits and dense vegetation, creating a striking color contrast. Scientists continue studying the exact microbial composition that creates this permanent pink phenomenon. 8. The boiling river of the Amazon shouldn't exist, yet it flows through the Peruvian rainforest at temperatures that would make a cup of tea. Deep in the Mayantuyacu region, the Shanai-Timpishka River reaches scalding temperatures as high as 91 degrees Celsius or 196 degrees Fahrenheit. Animals that accidentally fall into the river are cooked alive within moments. What makes this phenomenon particularly mysterious is the complete absence of volcanic activity in the area. According to geoscientist Andres Russo, who documented and studied the river extensively, the heat likely comes from underground geothermal vents connected to fault lines running through the Andes Mountains. Hot water from deep within Earth's crust travels through cracks in the rock, emerging in this remote stretch of river. The river is considered sacred by local shamans, who have protected and venerated it for generations. It remains one of the largest geothermal rivers on Earth, flowing hot for over 6 kilometers through dense jungle. 9. The singing sand dunes of Dunhuang have produced their mysterious music since ancient times. Located in Gansu province near the historic Silk Road city of Dunhuang, the Mingsha Shan Dunes translate to echoing sand mountain in Chinese. When sand avalanches down the steep slopes, the dunes produce a deep, resonant humming sound that can last for minutes and be heard from miles away. This phenomenon fascinated Marco Polo, who documented it during his travels in the 13th century, describing it as the sound of spirits and demons. Modern scientists have determined the effect comes from a specific combination of factors. The sand grains must be round and uniform in size, extremely dry, and contain a high quartz content. As these grains slide down the dune face, they compress the air between them while maintaining friction contact with neighboring grains. This creates synchronized vibrations that amplify through the entire dune structure, producing sounds ranging from low hums to musical notes. The acoustic phenomenon only occurs in specific desert conditions found in fewer than 40 locations worldwide. 10. The never-ending storm of Lake Maracaibo illuminates the Venezuelan sky in one of Earth's most persistent meteorological phenomena. Known locally as Catatumbo lightning, this spectacular electrical storm occurs over Lake Maracaibo in northwestern Venezuela, where lightning flashes up to 280 nights per year, producing more than 1 million lightning bolts annually. The phenomenon has been active for centuries. Spanish explorers documented it in the 16th century, and it has served as a natural lighthouse for sailors ever since. The lightning is created by unique atmospheric conditions where warm Caribbean air masses collide with cool Andes mountain winds over the lake's surface, particularly where the Catatumbo River flows into the lake. This convergence zone, combined with the lake's shallow depth and surrounding mountain ranges that trap humid air, creates ideal conditions for continuous storm formation. The lightning typically begins around 7 or 8 at night and continues until dawn, flashing up to 280 times per minute during peak activity. Local communities have lived with this nightly light show for generations, and it remains active today. 11. The door to hell has been burning continuously in Turkmenistan's desert for over half a century. In 1971, Soviet geologists were drilling for natural gas in the Karakum Desert near the village of Derwez when the ground suddenly collapsed beneath their equipment. The drilling rig and camp fell into a massive crater, revealing an underground cavern filled with natural gas. Fearing the release of poisonous methane gas that could harm nearby communities, the geologists made a decision they assumed would be temporary. They ignited the gas, expecting it to burn off within a few weeks. More than 50 years later, the fire continues to rage day and night. The crater measures about 70 meters in diameter and 30 meters deep, and flames constantly lick up from hundreds of fire pits covering the crater floor. The intense heat and eerie glow visible from miles away have earned it the local name, the Door to Hell. The site has become an unexpected tourist attraction, with visitors camping nearby to witness the hypnotic flames against the dark desert sky. 12. The underwater waterfall of Mauritius creates one of the ocean's most convincing optical illusions. Off the southwest coast of Le Morne-Brabant Peninsula, what appears to be a massive waterfall plunging thousands of feet into an abyss beneath the Indian Ocean is actually sand and silt deposits sliding down a steep underwater slope. The illusion is created by powerful ocean currents that sweep sand and sediment from the shallow coastal shelf down into the deeper waters beyond. When viewed from above, particularly from aircraft or satellites, the flowing sediment creates gradient patterns in shades of blue and white that perfectly mimic a cascading waterfall frozen in motion. The effect is enhanced by the sharp contrast between the turquoise shallow waters of the Mauritius Plateau and the dark blue of the deep ocean surrounding it. The underwater topology features a dramatic drop from about 150 meters to over 4,000 meters depth, giving the illusion genuine dimensional depth. It's one of Earth's most photogenic natural phenomena, turning simple sediment movement into breathtaking visual poetry. 13. The disappearing lake of Čertovica demonstrates nature's own vanishing act in the Slovak mountains. Nestled in the low Tatras Mountains, this alpine lake mysteriously drains away completely every few years, leaving behind only a muddy depression where crystal-clear water once reflected the surrounding peaks. The phenomenon is caused by the region's limestone karst geology beneath the lakebed. Underground drainage channels and sinkholes form naturally in limestone as slightly acidic water dissolves the rock over centuries. These natural drains open and close depending on changes in underground water pressure, sediment buildup, and seasonal rainfall patterns. When the drainage channels are blocked, water accumulates and the lake fills. When they clear and open, the lake can drain completely within hours or days. This creates an unpredictable cycle where the lake appears, persists for months or years, then vanishes almost overnight. Local hikers have learned to expect the unexpected, never quite certain whether they'll find a pristine mountain lake or just an empty basin on their visits. 14. The disappearing lake of Patagonia vanished in one of the most dramatic drainage events ever recorded. In 2011, Lake Cache 2 in Chilean Patagonia was a substantial glacial lake holding approximately 2 billion gallons of water. Then, overnight, it simply disappeared. Scientists investigating the mysterious vanishing discovered that melting from the nearby Colonia Glacier had opened a massive underground fissure beneath the lakebed. The entire volume of water drained through this hidden channel in a matter of hours, rushing through subterranean passages before emptying into nearby fjords and eventually the Pacific Ocean. The sudden drainage left behind a gaping crater where the lake had been, with boats and debris scattered across the exposed muddy bottom. The phenomenon, known as a glacial lake outburst flood, has occurred multiple times at this location as climate change accelerates glacial melting. Each time the lake refills from glacial meltwater, there's potential for another catastrophic drainage event. The speed and scale of these disappearances make them both fascinating and concerning indicators of our changing climate. 15. The Moeraki boulders scattered along New Zealand's Koekohe Beach look like giant spheres deliberately placed by some ancient civilization. These massive, nearly perfect spheres range from half a meter to over 2 meters in diameter, and their smooth, rounded forms appear almost too precise to be natural. According to Maori legend, the boulders are the remains of eel baskets, calabashes, and kumara washed ashore from the wreck of the great voyaging canoe Araituru. Science tells a different, but equally fascinating story. The boulders formed approximately 60 million years ago through a process called concretion, where calcite crystallized around organic matter buried within mudstone on the ancient seabed. Layer upon layer of minerals accumulated around these cores over millions of years, creating the spherical shapes. As the surrounding mudstone cliff erodes away, the harder concretions emerge and tumble onto the beach. Many boulders have cracked open, revealing honeycomb patterns and crystalline interiors. They offer a tangible connection to geological processes that unfolded long before humans walked the earth. 16. The double tree of Casorso grows in a botanical arrangement that seems to defy natural logic. In Piedmont, northern Italy, a cherry tree grows directly out of the trunk of a mulberry tree, with both trees fully alive, thriving, and producing fruit in their respective seasons. This extraordinary phenomenon, known as an arboreal marriage or tree over tree, was first documented in the 1970s and has baffled botanists for decades. The most likely explanation suggests that a bird dropped a cherry seed into a hollow or crack in the mulberry's trunk, perhaps into accumulated debris that provided enough nutrition for germination. The cherry seedling established roots that grew both within the mulberry's trunk and eventually down to the ground alongside it. As both trees matured, they developed a seemingly symbiotic relationship, sharing resources and space. The cherry tree now rises several meters above its host, creating the surreal image of one tree growing from another. While parasitic plants like mistletoe commonly grow on other plants, and strangler figs eventually kill their hosts, this relationship appears unique in its balance. Both trees remain healthy despite their unusual arrangement, creating a living curiosity that draws botanists and curious visitors to this small Italian hillside. 17. The Devil's Kettle in Minnesota presented hydrologists with a puzzle that defied explanation for decades. At Judge C.R. Magnay State Park, the Brule River splits dramatically around a rocky outcrop. One stream continues downstream as expected, cascading over visible falls and continuing its journey to Lake Superior. The other stream plunges into a massive pothole called the Devil's Kettle and simply vanishes. For years, researchers attempted to trace where the water went. They poured dye into the kettle, released biodegradable tracking objects, and studied geological maps, but nothing emerged anywhere downstream. Theories ranged from underground rivers to connections with distant lakes. Finally, in 2016, hydrologists from Minnesota's Department of Natural Resources conducted careful flow measurements above and below the falls. They discovered that the volume of water below the falls exactly matched the volume above it, meaning the disappearing water was actually rejoining the river through an underground channel just below the surface. The mystery was simply a dramatic visual illusion created by the rock formations hiding the reconnection point. 18. The Eye of the Sahara stares up from the desert like an enormous bullseye visible from space. Known formally as the Richat structure, this geological formation in Mauritania spans nearly 50 kilometers in diameter, with concentric rings of exposed rock creating a pattern so precise it initially seemed impossible to be natural. When astronauts first photographed it from orbit, many scientists believed it must be an asteroid impact crater. The perfect, circular shape and raised center certainly resembled impact structures found elsewhere on Earth and throughout the solar system. However, geological studies revealed no evidence of the shock metamorphosed rock or shattered quartz typically associated with impacts. Instead, the structure is now believed to be an eroded geological dome, a symmetrical uplift of rock layers that were pushed upward by pressure from below millions of years ago. Differential erosion gradually wore away softer rock layers, while more resistant layers remained, creating the distinctive ring pattern. The Eye of the Sahara serves as a landmark for astronauts and a natural laboratory for studying erosion processes. 19. The frozen methane bubbles of Lake Baikal create mesmerizing and dangerous patterns beneath Siberian ice. During winter, Lake Baikal in Russia transforms into a skating rink, stretching across the world's deepest freshwater lake. Trapped beneath the thick ice are thousands of white bubbles of varying sizes, frozen in columns that look like stacked coins or organic sculptures. These bubbles are pure methane gas, released by decaying organic matter on the lakebed over 2,600 meters below. As dead plants and animals decompose, bacteria break down the organic material and release methane as a byproduct. The gas rises through the water in tiny bubbles, accumulating into larger pockets as they ascend. When winter arrives suddenly, the rapidly forming ice traps these bubbles in place, preserving them in spectacular frozen columns. The visual effect is stunning, with some bubble formations reaching from the lake bed nearly to the surface. However, the beauty comes with danger. Methane is highly flammable, and if the ice cracks or melts, releasing the trapped gas near an open flame, the results could be explosive. 20. The Great Blue Hole draws divers from around the world to peer into its mysterious depths. Located off the coast of Belize, this nearly perfect circular marine sinkhole measures over 300 meters across and plunges 125 meters straight down through vibrant coral reefs into darkness. The hole appears as a deep navy blue circle surrounded by the lighter turquoise waters of the shallow reef, creating a dramatic target pattern visible from aircraft and satellites. The blue hole formed during the last ice age when sea levels were much lower and the area was dry land. Rainwater carved out a massive limestone cave system through typical karst erosion processes. When the ice age ended and sea levels rose, the ocean flooded these caverns, and eventually the cave ceiling collapsed, creating the sinkhole we see today. Inside, divers who venture deep enough discover massive stalactites hanging from submerged limestone ledges, some tilted at angles indicating geological shifts since their formation. The hole provides a window into both ancient cave systems and past sea levels, frozen in time beneath Caribbean waters. 21. The underwater crop circles of Japan revealed an unexpected artist working beneath the waves. In 2011, divers exploring the seafloor near Amami Oshima Island discovered intricate geometric patterns carved into the sand, complete with radiating ridges and decorative shells carefully arranged along the design. These delicate circles, measuring up to 2 meters wide, appeared too precise and artistic to be natural, yet no human activity in the area could explain them. Scientists investigating the phenomenon eventually identified the creator as a previously unknown species of pufferfish. Male pufferfish construct these elaborate structures as part of their mating ritual, working tirelessly for 7 to 9 days. Using only their fins, they swim in careful patterns, creating valleys and ridges in the sand, then decorating the finished circles with shells and coral fragments. The geometric precision serves a purpose beyond mere beauty. The ridges help reduce ocean currents within the circle's center, creating a safer environment for eggs. Females visit multiple circles before selecting the most impressive construction, making these fish true underwater architects and artists combined. 22. The glowing caves of New Zealand transform underground chambers into starry night skies. In the Waitomo Caves on the North Island, thousands of tiny glowworms illuminate limestone ceilings and walls with ethereal blue-green light. These aren't actually worms, but the larvae of a unique fly species called Arachnocampa luminosa, found only in New Zealand. The larvae attach themselves to cave ceilings and construct elaborate silk threads that hang down like fishing lines, covered in sticky mucus droplets. Then they activate their bioluminescence, producing a soft blue glow through a chemical reaction in specialized organs called Malpighian tubules. Flying insects, attracted by what appears to be an exit or opening above them, fly toward the lights and become trapped in the sticky silk threads. The glowworm then reels in its catch and feeds. In large caves, thousands of these larvae create a mesmerizing spectacle that mimics a star-filled sky, with their silk threads hanging like constellations. The effect is so striking that boat tours glide silently through underground rivers, allowing visitors to experience this living planetarium. 23. The Eternal Flame Falls combines two elements that should be mutually exclusive. Hidden in Chestnut Ridge Park in western New York, a small waterfall measuring just a few meters high conceals an extraordinary phenomenon behind its cascading water. A natural gas seep produces methane that escapes through cracks in the shale bedrock and this gas ignites into a flickering flame that burns continuously behind the waterfall. The flame typically measures about 10 to 20 centimeters high and glows with an orange light visible through the water. Occasionally, the flame extinguishes, particularly during heavy water flow or high winds, but hikers who discover it dark usually relight it. Recent research from Indiana University suggests the gas source is unusual. Most natural gas seeps come from ancient deposits trapped in rock layers, but the eternal flame's methane appears to be created by decomposition occurring at shallower depths and higher temperatures than previously thought necessary. This makes the flame not just a quirky natural phenomenon, but potentially an indicator that our understanding of natural gas formation needs revision. 24. The green flash at sunset exists at the boundary between science and legend. Occasionally, just as the sun dips below the horizon, observers witness a brief burst of emerald green light appearing above the sun's disappearing disk. The flash lasts typically 1 to 2 seconds, though under exceptional conditions it can persist for several seconds. This optical phenomenon is caused by atmospheric refraction, the bending of light as it passes through layers of air with different densities. As the sun sets, its light travels through increasingly more atmosphere. The atmosphere acts like a prism, separating white sunlight into its component colors. Red and orange wavelengths scatter more quickly, while green and blue wavelengths persist slightly longer. Blue light typically scatters too much to be visible, but green can momentarily dominate just as the sun vanishes. The effect is best observed from high altitudes or over water, where the horizon is clean and atmospheric conditions are clear. Ancient sailors considered spotting a green flash to be a sign of good fortune, and the phenomenon inspired Jules Verne's 1882 novel Le Rayon Vert. 25. The petrifying well of Knaresborough has been turning everyday objects into stone for centuries. Located in this historic Yorkshire town in England, the well is fed by water that has percolated through limestone rock, becoming supersaturated with calcium carbonate and other minerals. When objects are placed in the path of the cascading water, the minerals gradually precipitate out and coat them with a hard, stone-like crust. The process transforms teddy bears, hats, bicycles, and even delicate items like lace into rock-hard replicas of themselves within just 3 to 5 months. The well has been attracting curious visitors since at least 1630, making it one of England's oldest tourist attractions. Local legend claimed the well was cursed and could turn people to stone, leading to superstitious fear before the scientific explanation became understood. The water's mineral content is so high that it leaves deposits up to several millimeters thick per year. Today, items ranging from Victorian top hats to modern stuffed animals hang along the well's face, slowly becoming fossilized in real time, creating an ever-growing gallery of petrified objects. 26. The rainbow eucalyptus trees of the Philippines look like they've been painted by an abstract artist. In Mindanao, these extraordinary trees shed their outer bark in strips throughout the year, revealing a kaleidoscope of colors beneath. The bark peels away in thin layers, exposing the bright green inner bark beneath. As this newly exposed bark ages and matures over time, it transforms through a progression of colors, including blue, purple, orange, and finally maroon, before being replaced by fresh green bark in the continuing cycle. The color changes result from chlorophyll in the bark tissues. Young bark is bright green due to high chlorophyll content, which gradually breaks down and is replaced by other pigments as the bark ages. Different sections of bark at various stages create a natural patchwork of colors covering the entire trunk. Unlike most trees where bark serves primarily as protective dead tissue, rainbow eucalyptus bark remains photosynthetically active, allowing the tree to capture sunlight along its trunk, not just its leaves. The trees can grow to enormous heights, sometimes exceeding 75 meters, creating towering columns of living color in tropical forests. The wood is used for paper production, though many now advocate for preserving these natural works of art. 27. The blue lava of Kawaijan volcano flows with flames unlike anything found at typical volcanic eruptions. Located on Java Island in Indonesia, Kawaijan contains one of the world's most acidic crater lakes and produces a phenomenon that draws photographers from around the world. At night, bright electric blue flames appear to flow down the volcano's slopes like luminescent lava. However, the blue glow isn't from the lava itself. Instead, it comes from burning sulfuric gases that emerge from cracks in the volcano at extremely high pressures and temperatures exceeding 600 degrees Celsius. When the sulfur-rich gases contact oxygen in the air, they ignite, spontaneously producing flames that glow brilliant blue due to the presence of sulfur. Some of the molten sulfur condenses and continues burning as it flows down the slopes, creating the illusion of blue lava rivers. Local miners work in these toxic conditions, collecting hardened sulfur by torchlight despite the dangerous fumes and intense heat. The blue flames are visible only at night, making it one of the planet's most surreal natural spectacles, and one of only 2 places on Earth where this phenomenon occurs. 28. The Moaning Cave of California produces sounds that once convinced locals it was haunted. Located in Calaveras County in the Sierra Nevada foothills, this vertical limestone cavern drops straight down into darkness for nearly 200 feet. The cave produces deep, eerie moaning sounds that seem to emanate from the depths, varying in pitch and intensity. These unsettling noises aren't from any supernatural source, but result from air movement through the cave's complex chamber system. As external air temperature and pressure change throughout the day and across seasons, air flows in and out of the cave seeking equilibrium. The cave's narrow entrance and the specific configuration of passages and chambers create a natural resonance chamber. Moving air vibrates against rock surfaces and through tight passages, generating low-frequency sounds that amplify and echo through the cavern. The effect is particularly pronounced during temperature transitions at dawn and dusk. Before the scientific explanation was understood, the cave's moaning led to numerous ghost stories and legends. Inside the main chamber, archaeologists discovered evidence of prehistoric human activity and the remains of individuals who fell into the vertical shaft, adding an authentic element of tragedy to the cave's mysterious reputation. 29. The upside-down river of Mexico creates one of the most disorienting dive experiences on Earth. In Cenote Angelita, a water-filled sinkhole located south of Tulum, divers descending to about 30 meters encounter what appears to be a misty river, complete with fallen trees and branches lining its banks, flowing through a submerged cave. The illusion is so complete that divers feel they're swimming above a river rather than in one. This surreal phenomenon is caused by a halocline, a layer where fresh water and salt water meet but don't fully mix due to their different densities. The fresh water floats above the denser salt water, and between them sits a layer of hydrogen sulfide created by decomposing organic matter. This middle layer is milky and opaque, creating the visual appearance of a misty river surface. Fallen trees and branches that sank to this layer rest on the hydrogen sulfide as if on solid riverbanks. Divers can actually swim down into this layer, experiencing the strange sensation of moving through a cloudy boundary between 2 underwater worlds. Below the halocline, visibility drops to near zero in the dark, salty depths, completing the otherworldly atmosphere. 30. The dead Vlei trees of Namibia stand as monuments to drought and time itself. In Sosusvlei, surrounded by towering red sand dunes reaching nearly 400 meters high, lies a white clay pan dotted with the blackened skeletons of ancient camel thorn trees. These trees died approximately 600 to 700 years ago when drought struck the region and the Sochab River changed course, cutting off the valley's water supply. the trees desiccated where they stood, their roots anchored in the clay pan. What makes dead vley extraordinary is preservation. The climate is so arid that the dead wood has not decomposed. Instead, the intense sun has scorched the wood black, and the complete lack of moisture has prevented any decay organisms from breaking down the cellular structure. These desiccated trees are not fossils or petrified wood, but actual wood tissue, essentially freeze-dried by the desert climate. Against the stark white, clay floor, blue sky, and towering orange dunes behind them, the trees create one of the most photographed landscapes in Africa. They serve as haunting reminders of environmental change and nature's capacity to preserve moments across centuries. 31. The boiling mud pools of Rotorua bubble and hiss with Earth's inner heat. Located on New Zealand's North Island, Rotorua sits atop one of the world's most active geothermal regions, where tectonic forces beneath the surface create dramatic thermal features. The mud pools form when volcanic gases, primarily steam and carbon dioxide, rise through underground water sources that mix with clay and fine rock particles. This creates thick, viscous mud that heats to boiling temperatures. The mud pops and splatters in constant motion, with large bubbles slowly inflating at the surface before bursting in spectacular splashes. The Maori people have inhabited this region for centuries and named the area Wakarewarewa, meaning the gathering place of the gods. They've traditionally used the thermal waters for cooking, bathing, and healing. The geothermal activity includes not just mud pools, but also geysers, hot springs, and steaming vents, creating a landscape that seems alive with subterranean energy. The pools vary in color from gray to white to pink, depending on their mineral content and the type of algae that can survive in their extreme heat. 32. The Rainbow Mountains of China paint the landscape in impossible colors. Located in Zhangye Dangxia National Park in Gansu Province, these mountains glow in vibrant bands of red, yellow, orange, green, and even blue, creating one of the most colorful geological formations on Earth. The extraordinary colors formed over 24 million years through a process of layered deposition. During different geological periods, iron and other minerals settled in distinct layers of sandstone and siltstone. Each layer contains different mineral compositions that oxidized differently over time. Red layers contain iron oxide, yellows and oranges come from sulfur and carbonates, and greens indicate the presence of copper compounds. Tectonic plate movements then folded and tilted these layers, pushing them nearly vertical in some locations. Millions of years of erosion carved the rocks into their current dramatic peaks and valleys, while revealing the colorful strata like pages of Earth's history book. The mountain's vibrant appearance intensifies after rain, when the colors become more saturated. The formations look almost painted or digitally enhanced, yet they're entirely natural, offering a geological record written in spectacular rainbow hues. 33. The ice circles of North Dakota spin like natural frozen records on river surfaces. On rivers like the Cheyenne River, perfectly circular sheets of ice form and rotate slowly in the current, creating mesmerizing natural phenomenon. These formations, sometimes called ice disks or ice pancakes when smaller, can grow remarkably large, with some reaching 50 feet in diameter. They form when chunks of ice catch in eddy currents in the river, circular water patterns that rotate due to temperature gradients and flow dynamics. As the ice chunk spins, it grinds against surrounding ice and river edges, smoothing itself into an increasingly perfect circle through constant rotation and abrasion. The process is similar to how river rocks become rounded over time, but happens much faster due to ice's relative softness. Temperature plays a crucial role. The circles typically form during the transition period when river water hovers near freezing, creating a slush that can aggregate and solidify. The slow rotation is visible if you watch long enough, creating a hypnotic natural spectacle. While ice circles occur worldwide, North Dakota's wide, slow-moving rivers and frequent freeze-thaw cycles make them particularly common in this region. 34. The green sands of Papakolea create one of only 4 green sand beaches in the world. Located on the Big Island of Hawaii, this remote beach lies tucked inside a cinder cone, remnant from the ancient Pu'u-Mahana volcanic eruption. The striking green hue comes from olivine crystals, a mineral that forms when magma rich in iron and magnesium cools and crystallizes. Olivine is actually one of the first minerals to crystallize from cooling lava, and it's denser than the surrounding volcanic rock. When waves erode the volcanic material, lighter particles wash away while the heavier olivine crystals accumulate on the beach. The result is sand with a distinctive olive green color that becomes more vivid when wet. Olivine is the same mineral that gives peridot gemstones their green color, meaning this beach is essentially made of semi-precious gem sand. The mineral is relatively soft and erodes over time, so the green color becomes less intense as the crystals weather and break down. Reaching the beach requires a challenging hike across rugged terrain, helping preserve this rare geological wonder from excessive foot traffic. 35. The living root bridges of Meghalaya demonstrate patient collaboration between humans and nature. In the wettest place on Earth, India's northeastern state of Meghalaya, the Khasi people have developed an ingenious solution to crossing monsoon-swollen rivers. Rather than building conventional bridges that would wash away in the torrential rains, they trained the aerial roots of rubber fig trees to grow across river gorges. The process begins by placing a bamboo or palm trunk across the gap to serve as guidance. Young roots from trees on one bank are then carefully directed to grow along this framework. As roots reach the other side, they're planted into the soil to establish themselves. Over 10 to 15 years, the roots thicken and strengthen, interweaving into a living structure capable of supporting the weight of 50 people or more. Some bridges are over 100 feet long and have been in continuous use for 500 years. Unlike conventional bridges that deteriorate and require maintenance, living root bridges actually grow stronger over time. They need no materials beyond the trees themselves, making them perfectly sustainable. These bridges represent a remarkable fusion of botany and engineering passed down through generations. 36. The Phantom Islands of the North Atlantic haunted maps for centuries before modern technology proved they never existed. For generations, sailors and cartographers documented islands like High Brazil west of Ireland, Friesland near Iceland, and Sandy Island in the Pacific, marking their positions with apparent certainty. These islands appeared on official nautical charts and influenced shipping routes, yet every expedition sent to explore them found only open ocean. High Brazil was mapped consistently for nearly 600 years, described as a mysterious island shrouded in mist and appearing only once every 7 years, according to Celtic legend. Sandy Island appeared on maps until 2012, when an Australian research vessel sailed through its supposed location and found nothing but deep ocean. The Phantom Islands likely resulted from various causes, including mirages created by atmospheric conditions, misidentified icebergs or fog banks, deliberate falsification by explorers seeking fame, and simple navigational errors perpetuated through copying from earlier maps. Before GPS and satellite imagery, determining precise position at sea was challenging, leading to accumulated errors. Some phantom islands may have been real, but temporary features like volcanic islands that eroded away or sandbars that shifted with currents. Modern mapping has cleansed charts of these cartographic ghosts, but they remain fascinating examples of how perception, hope, and limited technology shaped our understanding of the world. 37. The eternal lightning of Congo illuminates African skies more than anywhere else on Earth. Over the Democratic Republic of Congo, particularly above the Lake Kivu region and the surrounding highlands, Lightning storms occur almost daily throughout the year. This area experiences more lightning strikes than any other location on the planet, earning it the nickname Lightning Alley. The extraordinary frequency results from unique atmospheric conditions. Warm, moist air from the Congo Basin collides with cooler air masses descending from the surrounding mountains, particularly during afternoon hours. The topography creates powerful convective updrafts that build towering thunderstorms. Additionally, the region's forests release enormous amounts of moisture through evapotranspiration, adding humidity that fuels storm development. NASA satellites tracking global lightning have confirmed that this region receives the highest concentration of strikes, with some areas experiencing lightning on more than 200 days per year. The storms are so reliable that they've become part of the natural rhythm of life for people living in the region. The constant lightning plays important roles in the ecosystem, fixing nitrogen in the soil and influencing plant growth patterns. 38. The blood rain of Kerala fell from Indian skies in an event that baffled scientists and spawned wild theories. In 2001, residents across Kerala state witnessed rain that fell in crimson drops, staining clothes and appearing to be blood falling from the sky. The phenomenon occurred sporadically over several weeks, causing widespread concern and speculation. Initial theories ranged from meteor dust to extraterrestrial material, with some researchers even proposing the red particles might be alien cells. The mystery deepened when samples were analyzed and found to contain no dust particles or desert sand, which typically causes colored rain. The truth proved more mundane but no less interesting. Scientists eventually identified the coloring agent as airborne spores from a local species of alga called Trentipolia annulata. This alga commonly grows on tree bark and rocks in Kerala's humid climate. A combination of unusual weather patterns, including strong winds and specific humidity conditions, had swept massive quantities of these rust-red spores into the atmosphere where they mixed with rain clouds. When the rain fell, it carried the spores down, creating the appearance of blood. Similar events have occurred elsewhere, but rarely so dramatically or extensively documented. 39. The Crystal Cave of Giants showcases nature's capacity for growing massive mineral structures. Discovered in year 2000 beneath the Nika mine in Chihuahua, Mexico, this extraordinary chamber contains some of the largest natural crystals ever found on Earth. Massive selenite crystals, some exceeding 12 meters in length and weighing up to 55 tons, cross through the cave in spectacular beams of translucent crystal. The crystals formed over approximately 500,000 years under remarkably stable conditions. The cave sat completely filled with mineral-rich water, heated to about 58 degrees Celsius by magma chambers far below. This temperature sits in a narrow range where selenite can crystallize from the dissolved calcium sulfate in the water. As long as conditions remained constant, the crystals continued growing, atom by atom, layer by layer, eventually reaching their enormous size. The cave remained sealed and water-filled until mining operations accidentally drained it. The crystal's size is unprecedented because the conditions remained perfectly stable for such an extended period. Unfortunately, the cave is almost unbearably hot and humid, with temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius and humidity near 100%, making exploration difficult and dangerous. 40. The vanishing island of Bermeja presents a cartographic mystery with political implications. Once charted off Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, the island of Bermeja appeared on maps for centuries, with its location carefully noted in nautical records. Spanish expeditions documented its position as early as the 16th century, and it continued appearing on official maps through the 20th century. Then, during surveys conducted in the 1990s and early 2000s, when Mexico sought to establish maritime boundaries for offshore oil rights, the island could not be found. Extensive searches using satellite imagery, sonar, and ship surveys found nothing but open ocean at the charted coordinates. Several theories attempt to explain Bermeja's disappearance. Some suggest rising sea levels submerged a low-lying island or sandbar. Others propose the island never existed, resulting from cartographic error that was perpetuated across centuries of map copying. More dramatic theories even speculate that the CIA destroyed the island to undermine Mexico's oil claims, though no evidence supports this. The most likely explanation is that Bermeja was a phantom island, possibly a misidentified sandbar or an optical illusion of clouds that sailors mistook for land and recorded in error. 41. The floating stones of Costa Rica present an enduring archaeological puzzle. Scattered across the Diquís Delta and surrounding regions, thousands of nearly perfect stone spheres, ranging from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter, dot the landscape. These precisely carved spheres, known locally as Las Bolas, date back to somewhere between 600 and 1500 CE, created by the indigenous Diquís culture. Some weigh up to 15 tons, yet their spherical precision is remarkable, with many accurate to within centimeters. The stones were carved from gabbro, a hard igneous rock, using only stone tools available to pre-Columbian peoples. Researchers believe the spheres were created through a combination of controlled heating and cooling to fracture the rock, followed by patient grinding and polishing using sand and other abrasives. The purpose of these spheres remains debated. They may have served as status symbols, with larger spheres indicating greater wealth or power. Others suggest astronomical or cosmological significance, possibly representing celestial bodies or serving as calendrical markers. Many spheres originally stood in precise alignments before being displaced by agricultural development. Their creation demonstrates sophisticated mathematical understanding and remarkable patience, yet their makers left no written records explaining their meaning. 42. The color-changing lake. Natron transforms animals into calcified statues in a process both beautiful and macabre. Located in northern Tanzania near the Kenyan border, this alkaline lake derives its blood-red color from salt-loving microorganisms that thrive in its extreme environment. The lake's water reaches pH levels as high as 10.5, comparable to ammonia, and temperatures can exceed 60 degrees Celsius due to geothermal activity beneath the surface. Animals and birds that crash into the lake's mirror-like surface sometimes die from the impact or become disoriented in the extreme conditions. The lake's high sodium carbonate content, combined with other minerals, then begins to calcify their remains. The process essentially mummifies the creatures, preserving them in eerie detail with a coating of natron salts, the same substance ancient Egyptians used for mummification. The calcified animals remain positioned exactly as they died, creating haunting sculptures along the shoreline. Despite these deadly conditions for most creatures, the lake supports massive flocks of lesser flamingos, one of the few species adapted to feed on the algae in such caustic water. The lake's remoteness and harsh conditions actually protect flamingo breeding grounds from predators. 43. The singing ice of Lake Superior produces sounds that range from ethereal to unsettling. During winter, when the largest of the Great Lakes begins to freeze, the ice creates eerie vocalizations that echo across the frozen surface. These high-pitched tones, sometimes described as alien, communication, or whale songs, result from a fascinating physical process. As water freezes and air temperatures fluctuate, the ice expands and contracts, creating enormous internal stresses. The ice sheet responds by cracking, but rather than producing simple snapping sounds, the acoustics of the massive ice sheet transform these fractures into musical tones. The sound waves travel through the ice at different speeds, depending on temperature and ice density, creating harmonics and overtones. Long cracks opening across miles of ice generate sustained notes that reverberate and echo. Shorter cracks produce higher pitches. The combination creates a natural symphony that sounds crafted by some otherworldly musician. The phenomenon is most pronounced during periods of rapid temperature change, particularly during cold snaps following warmer days when the ice experiences maximum stress. Standing on the frozen lake while it sings creates an unforgettable, slightly unnerving experience. 44. The magnetic hill of Ladakh appears to defy gravity itself. Located on the Leh-Kargil highway at an altitude of about 11,000 feet, this stretch of road creates a remarkable optical illusion that convinces observers that vehicles roll uphill when placed in neutral. Signs along the road mark the spot and invite visitors to experience the phenomenon. What appears to be happening is that vehicles are being pulled upward by mysterious magnetic forces in the rocks. What's actually happening is a powerful optical illusion created by the surrounding landscape. The road is actually on a downhill grade, but the layout of the terrain creates a false horizon. Mountains in the background slope at angles that make the descending road appear to ascend. The human brain processes this visual information and concludes the vehicle must be rolling uphill. Similar magnetic hills exist worldwide, from Scotland to Australia, and all work on the same principle of confused visual reference. The effect is so convincing that even when you know it's an illusion, standing at the spot, your eyes still insist you're seeing the impossible. It demonstrates how powerfully our visual system can override logical understanding when presented with conflicting spatial information. 45. The red crab migration of Christmas Island creates one of Earth's most spectacular animal movements. Each year, triggered by the beginning of the wet season, typically in October or November, approximately 50 million red crabs emerge from their forest burrows and march toward the ocean to spawn. The crimson tide of crustaceans covers roads, crawls over buildings, and transforms the landscape into a living carpet of red. The migration timing is precise, synchronized with the lunar cycle to ensure eggs are released during specific tides. The journey takes about a week, with crabs traveling several kilometers from forest to shore. Roads become so thick with crabs that driving becomes impossible, and authorities close major routes to protect both the crabs and drivers. Special crab bridges and tunnels help the animals cross roads safely. Male crabs arrive first, digging burrows near the shore where mating occurs. Females then release thousands of eggs into the ocean, timing the release for high tide just before dawn. After spawning, the adults return to the forest, and a month later, tiny crab larvae wash ashore and begin their own journey inland. The island's ecosystem depends on this migration, as the crabs play crucial roles in nutrient cycling and seed dispersal. 46. The red lake of Bolivia glows crimson against the stark Andean landscape. Laguna Colorada, located near the Chilean border at over 4,000 meters elevation, appears blood red due to a combination of algae and mineral sediments suspended in its shallow waters. The primary contributors to the color are red algae species that thrive in the lake's extreme conditions, including high salinity, intense ultraviolet radiation at altitude, and dramatic temperature fluctuations. These algae produce red pigments as protection against the harsh environment. The minerals washing down from surrounding volcanic mountains add iron oxides and other compounds that intensify the red hue. Borax islands of brilliant white dot the lake's surface, creating striking color contrasts. The lake serves as a crucial breeding ground for 3 species of South American flamingos, including the rare James's flamingo. These birds feed on the same algae that color the water, and the carotenoid pigments they consume actually deepen the pink color of their feathers. The flamingos gather in huge flocks, sometimes numbering over 30,000 birds, creating pink clouds against the red water and white salt deposits. The surreal color palette looks artificial or digitally enhanced, yet it's entirely natural. The lake demonstrates how life adapts to extreme environments and creates beauty in the process. 47. The vanishing Sea of Aral stands as one of environmental engineering's greatest disasters. Once the world's fourth-largest lake, the Aral Sea straddled the border between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, supporting thriving fishing communities and moderating the regional climate. Beginning in the 1960s, Soviet agricultural planners diverted the two rivers feeding the lake to irrigate cotton fields in the desert. The consequences were catastrophic. The sea began shrinking at alarming rates, losing 90% of its volume over the following decades. The exposed seabed, heavily contaminated with agricultural chemicals, pesticides, and fertilizer runoff, now stretches for miles of toxic desert. Massive dust storms lift this contaminated sediment, spreading it across the region and causing health problems in local populations. Abandoned fishing boats lie scattered across the dry seabed, rusting monuments to destroyed livelihoods. The lake's shrinkage has even altered the local climate, making winters colder and summers hotter. Salinity in the remaining water has increased dramatically, killing most fish species. The northern section has seen partial recovery due to Kazakhstan's construction of a dam, but the southern portion continues to desiccate. The Aral Sea's fate serves as a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of large-scale environmental manipulation. 48. The stone forest of Madagascar creates a landscape that seems imported from an alien planet. The Tsingy de Bemaraha National Park features an expanse of razor-sharp limestone, pinnacles formed through millions of years of erosion. The word Tsingy comes from the Malagasy language, meaning where one cannot walk barefoot, an apt description for this labyrinth of knife-edge rock. The formations began as coral reef deposits on an ancient seabed. Geological uplift raised these limestone layers above sea level, and then rainwater began its patient work. Slightly acidic from dissolved carbon dioxide, the rainwater dissolved and carved channels through the limestone, exploiting natural fractures and weaknesses. Over millennia, this erosion carved deep gorges separated by increasingly narrow walls of rock, eventually creating the dense forest of stone spires we see today. Some pinnacles reach heights of 70 meters, creating a nearly impenetrable maze. The Tsingy ecosystem supports unique biodiversity, with animals and plants that have evolved in isolation among the rock formations. Species found nowhere else on Earth cling to existence in this harsh environment. Accessing the formations requires careful navigation and climbing equipment, as the rocks are sharp enough to tear through regular clothing and can cause serious injuries. 49. The fire rainbows of Montana paint the sky in prismatic beauty during rare atmospheric alignments. These circumhorizontal arcs are not actually rainbows, nor do they involve fire, but the name captures their spectacular appearance. The phenomenon occurs when sunlight passes through high-altitude cirrus clouds composed of plate-shaped ice crystals. For the effect to appear, several precise conditions must align. The sun must be at least 58 degrees above the horizon, which only happens during summer months and never occurs at all in locations above about 55 degrees latitude. The ice crystals in the clouds must be horizontally aligned, acting as tiny prisms. When sunlight enters through vertical crystal faces and exits through horizontal faces, it refracts at precise angles. This refraction separates white sunlight into component wavelengths, creating bands of spectral color that appear to fill portions of the sky. The display can extend across large sections of sky, creating the appearance of clouds on fire with rainbow colors. Unlike regular rainbows that form arcs, fire rainbows appear as parallel bands of color running horizontally across the sky. The phenomenon is relatively rare because all the necessary conditions seldom coincide, making sightings particularly memorable. 50. The handprint cave of Argentina preserves human expression from the dawn of art. In Santa Cruz province, the Cueva de las Manos, or Cave of Hands, displays over 9,000 years of human artistic tradition painted on rock walls. The cave contains more than 800 hand stencils, created by placing hands against the rock and blowing pigment around them to leave a negative image. Most hands are left hands, suggesting people held the pigment blowing tube with their right hand while stenciling the left. The pigments were made from natural minerals: iron oxides for reds, manganese for blacks and purples, clays for whites and yellows. Some handprints belong to adults, others to children, and a few even show missing fingers, possibly from ritual amputation or frostbite. Beyond the hands, the walls display hunting scenes showing guanacos, rheas, and other prey animals, along with geometric patterns whose meanings remain mysterious. The paintings span several thousand years, with the oldest dating to around 7300 BCE. Different layers of art show changing styles and techniques over generations. The cave offers a profound connection to prehistoric peoples, their hands reaching across millennia to touch ours through their art. And there you have it, 50 fascinating natural wonders that reveal just how extraordinary our planet truly is. Each phenomenon reminds us that Earth holds endless mysteries and beauty, often in places we least expect them. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to keep looking at our world with curious eyes. I'll see you in the next video.